more than 3 decades, the Celebration of Light was Vancouver's signature summer event, drawing over 1 million people, pumping hundreds of millions into the local economy, and giving families a free tradition to countdown. Now, well, it's been cancelled indefinitely. To walk us through the decision and what happens next is Michael McKnight, co-chair of the Vancouver Fireworks Festival Society. Michael, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. I wish I was here with better news.
Yeah, the event now sort of has survived recessions, sponsor changes, even pandemic pause. What finally pushed the Celebration of Light past the breaking point this time?
Well, I think there were a couple of significant factors. One is everybody knows costs have gone up in significant ways in many cases, and that has been our experience with the fireworks. And then secondly, and I guess I would say more disappointing for me as a volunteer and board member, is the lack of financial support we get has declined over the last number of years as well.
How many people do you get on an average night that come out to watch the Celebration of Light?
Well, we probably get somewhere between 250 and 300,000 people an evening. It's always a bit of an estimate, but we can tell from past years whether the numbers are up or down. And we've had really strong attendance the last number of years, I think, in part because anybody can join for free. And it's one of the few things that are cost-free in our lives today.
Well, the reason I ask you that is it is a part of summer here in Vancouver. And as I was saying in the introduction, it's been there for well over 3 decades. Now, you talk about just the money issue. There's, to my understanding, that you're about $1 million short this year. What are the key cost pressures driving that gap? Is it just the lack of government funding, or is it also sponsorship funding as well?
Well, on a revenue side, it's both. I mean, we've been privileged enough to have Honda on board for the last number of years, and their commitment has continued and was going to continue into the future. We have lost a couple of other sponsors and have corporate sponsors and have not been able to replace them. I think the biggest significant impact, though, is that we've had federal government support on and off for the last number of years. We had nothing in 2025 and no response to inquiries about funding into the future from the government. And then our provincial government grant has been reduced from $250,000 for quite a number of years, down to $100,000 going into next year. The combination of increased prices, reduced financial support through government or corporations really put us in a position where we couldn't have a viable business model to put the event on next year and into the future.
What have you been told by Ottawa or Victoria in regards to their lack of interest in supporting, which is, one could argue, the biggest event of the year in Vancouver? The only sort of natural other homegrown event would be the PNE, to my estimation, but this is a long-time event as well. What have Ottawa and Victoria said in regards to their lack of interest?
Well, and I'll just make the point that it's the biggest free event in Canada, not just in British Columbia. So it is quite iconic in that way. We've not heard anything from the federal government. The society wrote a letter to the federal government more than 2 months ago, Minister Robertson. We've not received a reply or any kind of additional information. I've had many conversations with both federal elected officials and bureaucrats over the years, and not been able to find a way that they can support this event, which is particularly disappointing, because as I look at the websites of other large cultural festivals around Canada, they all seem to indicate that the federal government is a financial supporter of those events, just not out here for some reason. And then provincially, we know, there's been less money available for all kinds of different things, but particularly cultural festivals over time. And some of the money that was available to events like ours coming out of COVID isn't available anymore.
What would you say to the argument that, look, any of these events and festivals at their core have to build a business model that is reliant on private sector sponsorship with some help from government, that you shouldn't have organizations that predominantly rely on government, and if they do, the money will go away? What do you say to that argument that perhaps bolstering the private sector donations, private sector sponsorship should be the focus rather than relying on government funding and taxpayer funding?
Well, I think if you just look at the event as entertainment, I would agree with that. But if you look at it as an opportunity to build community, to bring people together, to build, connections, that pay off over the long term. So, we see in our community many times people step up during times of crisis. But if we only bring people together during times of crisis, I think we actually weaken the social fabric in our communities. And I would argue at least part of government's responsibility is to build that strength of community who can then respond in times of need to help their neighbors, their friends, their family. But we can't ignore that, or we can't put that on the backs of the corporate sector by itself.
Have you heard anything in regards to perhaps a philanthropist stepping forward, or perhaps this being a one-off that perhaps next year you may be able to come back? Is there any indication that there is any future right now for the celebration of light in our city moving forward?
Unfortunately, I'd say no. Nobody's indicated an interest, a willingness, not just to support, but even to have a conversation. I know we've been able to cobble together resources kind of at the end of the day to put this on the last number of years, but there just is no viable path forward that we can see. And when we're facing about $1 million shortfall, that's just too risky for a small group of volunteers to go forward with.
Do you think this is the start of other similar announcements from other cultural organizations, whether they be festivals, other entertainment in our city that are still reliant not only just on private sector sponsors, but also some help from government, that there may be other organizations making similar announcements moving forward?
Well, I think the obvious answer is yes. And I can tell you, I've had many, many people say to me when I've discussed our challenges, well, geez, if the fireworks can't attract enough financial support, what festival or event can? And there's some truth to that. We bring, as we talked about, 250 to 300,000 people down per night. That's a great deal of visibility for any financial supporter of this event. And if we can't do it, I would absolutely agree that it's an indication that other festivals and events are going to struggle as well.
Well, Michael, I appreciate you making time for us and for our listeners to talk about this issue. I know it's not a great day, but it's an important conversation to have. Really appreciate you making time for us. Thank you.
Thanks. It's a sad day for all of us. Take care.
That is Michael McKnight, co-chair of the Vancouver Fireworks Festival Society, letting us know, of course, that after more than 3 decades, the Celebration of Light is not going to be running. It is canceled indefinitely. It has fallen short in regards to dollars needed, particularly from the federal and provincial government. And as I was saying with my last question, there are going to be huge challenges for other organizations as well. I've heard this already from other festivals as well, that they're barely holding on. And I don't know if it's a post-COVID environment, we're not going out as much, or maybe it's just the strain of trying to get back up and run again as a festival or as an organization. And many of our cultural communities, that it's tough out there. Give me a call on the open line. We'd love to hear from you. Do you think Ottawa and Victoria should step up and continue with the funding of the Celebration of Light, or do you think the focus should be on, hey, go find some dollars from philanthropists and the private sector and sponsorship? You can't have taxpayers funding everything, especially in this moment of incredible challenge for many when it comes to affordability. 604-280-9898. That's 604-280-9898, star 9898 on your cell phone. Let's go to Wendy in Surrey. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound crystal clear. Go ahead.
Oh, awesome. Okay, just, governments have to start to save money. Every time an idea comes up, a bunch of people say no. So I don't know when you find what the project is that you save money. But if I understand correctly, 1.25 million attend this. They need $1 million. Maybe they're not able to do it, but what about like a GoFundMe? And if I'm a family of 4 that likes to go to this, I chip in $4. Maybe that's what we need to start looking at rather than the taxpayer funding everything. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Like as Michael was saying, on any given night, it's free. It's 250 to 400,000 people, and usually we have 3 nights, maybe 4 nights. So let's just say 250,000. So it's 1 million visitors or visits. And there's people spending extra money downtown, so there is some economic benefit as well. Now, compare that to 7 FIFA World Cup games with 60,000 residents, and revenue we don't keep, although we will get hotel revenue as well, and the government maintains it's a net positive, but that's 600 million plus that we are subsidizing them with, federal and provincial dollars. So, you got to weigh that a little bit. And this is a local event that's happening every year as opposed to FIFA, which is a one-off and then it goes away. So I'm generally, hesitant in providing subsidies for every festival, every organization that needs one. But if you take the track record of this group, 33 years, and the fact that it is local people compared to, let's say, FIFA, you could argue, well, maybe it wasn't the right decision. Let's go to Bob in Vancouver. Hi, Bob.
Yeah, hi, Jas. What I found it quite interesting is that you have the guest on who said that the Fireworks Festival sent a letter to Ottawa to Gregor Robertson, who knows Vancouver very well, and not even the courtesy of a reply. So to me, that shows you that these people in Ottawa really couldn't care less about British Columbia. This is a tremendously successful event. Unlike the T&E, where you have to pay $25 to park your car, where you have to pay huge money to get admittance, this is a bona fide winner. And I think, even though your guest said, it's not going to come back, I think there's always a way. And I do believe that there would be corporate support to try to help these guys out, because it's a wonderful marquee event.
Yeah, Bob, thank you for your call. Appreciate it. I don't disagree with you. I just think money is really tight right now. I hear from a lot of festivals. I hear from other business leaders. They get hit up all the time for donations. And look, yesterday we had the CKNW Kids Fund. We're very happy with what we were able to raise, and very happy with the generosity from businesses and individuals. But it's tough out there right now. That's part of it. The economy is not going well. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. So I think it's sometimes hard at this point. I think it's hard out there to raise the dollars that are needed. And I kind of agree with Michael. I mean, if this was a festival in Montreal, I think we'd found the money. I think Ottawa would have found the money. It's that simple. Let's go to Ron in Abbotsford. Hi, Ron.
Hi, good afternoon, Jas. I really would hate to see the celebration light fizzle out, after all these years. But sponsors come and go. If you remember, Benson and Hedges started it, with the Symphony of Fire.
Yeah.
A tobacco company. Then it was Honda. But why don't, or have they approached a person like Elon Musk? He's a Canadian. He loves BC. And he could call it the Tesla celebration of space. Because make no mistake, hey, Elon's not opposed to blowing stuff up, right? With his SpaceX program and the odd Starship. So I think it's got to be a private sponsorship. It should continue, and it should remain to be free.
Yeah. Ron, thank you for your call. I appreciate that. I think Elon is so busy between X and Tesla and his rocket ships and his boring company. I think it'd be tough to reach him right now. He's pretty busy, plus hanging out with Donald Trump and try to save the world or whatever he tries to do most of the time.